What the hell?
Leaking soul grinders on hump day? No, 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 no. We're leaking soul grinders on pump day. As in, these boys have been working out and are quite pumped up for this next edition of Warhammer. So, really quickly going over the profiles here, you might immediately notice something pretty significant, which is those lovely 3 pluses you might see on the weapon skill and ballistic skill. That's right, and ballistic skill. So your soul grinder won't just helplessly flail and fire its guns in all directions at once. It now actually lands some of its shots. So that's pretty cool. What else is going on here? Well, strength 8, that's pretty good. Toughness 8? Are you kidding me? Well, that's nice. That means that things that like some of the dedicated anti-tank in the game are only wounding you on 4s, which is pretty good. Which, considering also that the Soul Grinder is a 16 wound model that can still hide behind obscuring terrain, is extra good, because if you reveal this thing, it might not die at T8. So that's pretty cool. It's only got 5 attacks, which they're pretty good attacks. I'll get to that in a second. So it's not really the end of the world. Obviously, leadership's not a big deal here. And then the save characteristic on these guys. It used to be just a 3+ for their warp forged bodies, but now they've gotten it moved to a 4+ against ranged and a 5+ in melee. So all of that said, let's take a look at their previously terrible ranged weapons and whether or not we think these things are usable now that we've gotten ourselves to a 3+ ballistic skill. So the first one is going to be our Harvester Cannon. That is just a heavy 6 now, with 6 shots at AP -2 and damage 2. Solid little profile there. It's reminiscent of the Chaos Space Marines Venom Crawler, so not negligible shooting. And then it's got its lovely tummy cannon, its little phlegm barrage that it gets to shoot out, which is, as far as I can tell, unchanged, with just a heavy D6 blast, strength 8, AP -2, damage 3. Let's not forget that inside of every gun platform clinker spawn, there is a demon yearning to get out and go collect itself some souls. So what best way to do that than to go in there and rip and tear our way through melee combat? And we actually have some pretty nice tools for doing that now. Again, the improvement on our ability to hit with our weapons was pretty significant for us, but also just the stat lines on our weapons themselves are pretty nice. So we have our standard attack with our Iron Claw. This is the weapon that you'll be making 5 attacks with when you swing. And the Iron Claw is strength 16, AP -3, and damage D6. Pretty solid profile and very, very strong against light and medium armor in particular. I mean, this claw can even wound knights on 2s. Statistically, it's not going to kill a knight in one go, but it's going to put some serious damage on one. And that brings us to our offhand weapon, so your optional weapon that you can bring on the Soul Grinder. You've got 2 choices. You can either choose a Warp Blade, or Warp Sword, or a Warp Claw. The Warp Sword is meant to really stick it to those armored targets. This one is strength 8, AP -3, but damage 3 plus D3. And you get 2 bonus attacks with this profile. If you choose the Warp Claw instead, it's more like you're selecting a sweep profile or an anti-marine profile, because it's 4 bonus attacks at strength 8, AP -2, and damage 2. So overall, not shabby in melee, and I think the weapon improvements are nice, but in particular, again, we're going to be hitting with a lot more attacks than we were before. Last but not least, let's take a look at what benefits our Soul Grinders get from being dedicated to one of the 4 Chaos Gods. Now, if you're dedicated to Zeech, you get a 4+ in melee as well as in shooting, which is pretty nice. If you're Corn, you get +1 attack, which remember that'll go on that strength 16 profile, which is pretty good. If you're Nurgle, you get a very spicy +1 toughness, so now all of a sudden things like Meltaguns are wounding you on 5s. And if you select Slaanesh, you get a very modest 2-inch increase to your base movement characteristic, which will come up more than one might assume, because that gives you more movement to kind of get around corners and snipe better angles with your shooting, or if you want to send it in for a big charge turn too. So what do you think? Is this enough of a change to our 8th edition profile to get us into a place where the Soul Grinder is competitive? I mean, I honestly don't know. I mean, looking at the stats here and just some of the changes that have affected the model overall, I do see it actually filling a niche position in my lists now. One thing the Demon's Codex really benefits from is having access to some amount of shooting, and that shooting doesn't have to be particularly good. Just enough to chip away at some screens and make room for things like our bloodletters to get better charges. And I think these are modest enough improvements that it might not get us there, but it gets us closer to where we want to be. Looking over some of the god-specific buffs, or the god mark buffs here too, I can really see a lot of value or merit in taking one with the Nurgle mark. A toughness 9, 16 wound model with an unrundable 4-up save is going to be able to survive quite a bit of shooting from a lot of the lists in the meta right now. Things like knights with their Melta Lances are going to be wounding you on 4s. Multi-Meltas from Sisters will be wounding you on 5s, so on and so forth. Heavy Venom Cannons also get affected by that toughness 9 target. So, just off the bat, those look like some pretty good changes. If I were to point this thing, I would want it to be under 200 points. I think something like 180 points would be a pretty good price point for this model, and if it gets costed around that mark, I think it'll be a pretty good option as maybe like a 1 of or a 2 of in something like a Corn or a Nurgle list where you don't have access to a lot of shooting profiles. So all in all, I think it's dramatically improved, and I hope that it is costed well enough for my soul grinders I have collecting dust on my shelf to finally see some play. So if you like this video and you want to see more content from this channel, please just give me one of those thumbs up things and subscribe in the section down below. I really do appreciate the feedback I've been getting on the last few videos, and I'm trying to use that to improve. So if you have anything you would like to add or anything you'd like to discuss, just let us know in the comment section. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.